Here we have in Zechariah chapter 6, our last vision in the first 8 verses. And then beginning in verse 9, we have an order that comes from God to Zechariah. And the order is to go gather some gold and silver and make a crown. And take that crown and put it on the head of the high priest Joshua. What we have here is a little bit of foreshadowing. It's showing us perhaps something else that's going to come later. If you remember, Joshua and the name Jesus in Greek, Joshua in Hebrew, they are the same name. And it's kind of interesting because Jesus is our high priest. Joshua is the high priest as they come out of captivity. Jesus is our high priest when we come out of the captivity of sin. Jesus wears this crown as our high priest, as does Joshua wearing this crown as their high priest. You remember in John chapter 14 and verse 27 that Jesus gives us His peace. And look at what it says here in verse 13 about Joshua. It is he who shall build the temple of the Lord and shall bear royal honor, and shall sit and rule on his throne. And there shall be a priest on his throne, and the counsel of peace shall be between them both. Just as Jesus gives us peace, Joshua gave the people of Israel peace. It reminds me also of Hebrews chapter 5, when we are reminded of a man named Melchizedek that accepted offerings on behalf of Abraham to God because he was a high priest. Now, Melchizedek, if you remember, is the same order of priest that Jesus came out of, we are told in Hebrews chapter 5. Because Jesus is the king of peace, so is Melchizedek, the king of Salem, which in Hebrew means peace. Melchizedek is a high priest of God, and so is Jesus, Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 14. Melchizedek also kind of pops on the scene. There he is, and there he goes. Just mentioned very briefly in Scripture. He has no genealogy. It's almost as if he has no beginning and no end. But we know that Jesus, our high priest, has no beginning and end. In Revelation, if you remember it, in chapter 1 and verse 8, Jesus says, I am the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. Jesus is our high priest who wears a crown.